Welcome back to Kettlebells and Cocktails. I'm your host, John. Today, without my girl, Nikki, who is off doing other things, but I'm going to have a really fun conversation today. We have Mason Alberts from Forging Youth Resilience. Mason, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to have you on. I think some people that follow me know I have done some work for you guys in the past, or several posts helping you guys push out your organization. But I thought it'd be fun to get you on today to talk about the great work you guys are doing within the CrossFit community. That's part of the mission of this podcast is to help build kind of a tighter knit community and help people really understand like all the things that are going on outside of CrossFit games and thruster races and pull-ups and push-ups and all that kind of crazy stuff we do. And you guys do amazing work. So why don't we just start with the biggest question of all? Tell people, what is Forging Youth Resilience?
Yes, thank you. We are a national network of youth programs, and we offer free community based fitness classes, as well as mentorship and a summer leadership camp. And we are in 18 locations currently around the US. And just in the first quarter of the year, we've had 10 additional new programs reach out and say that they're ready to start up. So, um, it's been kind of a rough couple of years. A lot of our youth were not able to attend in-person classes, which is where the work of our program happens. But we're back, and we are working with youth in, as I said, 18 cities. And yeah, we're just excited to be back.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know you guys are OGs in the CrossFit community. So you're previously Steve's club, which, correct me if I'm wrong here, he used to do like a paleo mix, right? Like, didn't Steve do that? Wasn't that
That's
something I
right.
remember? Yeah, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And yeah, that's where we started, and we're grateful to him for his initiative, which was really to put some CrossFit gear in his car and go to the most dangerous neighborhood in the country at that time in Camden, New Jersey. And he saw some kids there that needed direction, that needed focus, and he started offering them CrossFit classes. And you know that is the model. Our local clubs have complete autonomy in terms of how they run their program. Um, most of them are sort of housed within a CrossFit affiliate, and many of them run FYR classes that might look a little bit like a regular CrossFit Kids class. But others are going to where the kids are at. So they're bringing the equipment to a foster care facility or a juvenile detention residential center, and offering kids these classes where they're at. And so while the program started in one location, it became, in 2007, it became a national organization in 2010. From 2010 up until last year, it was a one person, there was one staff member running the organization in conjunction with the board, who played a huge role in helping the helping to build the network and then support the local clubs. And it's just in the last year that we've added a couple more staff members. We're now a team of 4 at the national level. And so I think that's why you might be seeing more of us and hearing more about FYR. We have a little more organizational capacity to really be reaching out to the community right now.
Well, and you guys have been at this for so long now. I mean, was it 15 years or so? Is that
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah, since 2007.
Yeah, it's funny when I started the page and decided I wanted to invest time in doing charity work within the community. Steve's Club was one of the first things that popped on my radar. And one of my buddies was like, "Oh, doesn't that guy used to make a paleo mix?" And because I'm an OG, I'm like, "I used to buy that paleo mix." I
Excellent.
had I had no idea, all of that was connected.
Yeah.
But then I started looking at the work you guys are doing, mentoring youth and helping build mental strength in them. And, I was just really blown away by that. I mean, as someone who has kids, I know how hard it is to raise your own kids. And then when you're helping others, it's even harder. Tell me a little bit about how that mental strength and mentorship you guys are doing with the teens, like why that's so important and how you do it.
Yeah. First, we're providing a consistent uh, community, a safe space, an inclusive space that kids can go to at least a couple of times a week. Some of our clubs run classes 5 days a week. So that's sort of the first step, providing a space and a community to support kids that are in challenging circumstances. And when our athletes walk in the door, we have provided some training for our coaches. We ask them to check in. We ask them to find out, so how is this particular athlete feeling today? What kind of space are they in their head? Is today the day when they're ready to try to do a workout RX? Is it the day we're going to push and maybe try to find a new PR? Or is today the day that we're just going to make this about, that mental endurance? And they're just going to get through the workout however they need to get through it. And that is going to be the win today. So, or maybe it's just that they need to touch base with a community or with their coach, their mentor, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So there's a lot of different approaches we can take within the context of a given class. And our board vice president, Duncan Sewell, provided our local club leaders with a training in March about trauma-informed coaching for youth, just to kind of make sure our coaches know how to interact with all of our youth, many of whom have likely experienced trauma because of the backgrounds they're coming from. And one of the things Duncan also talks about is that there's a huge difference between talking to a young person who's coming from a challenging background and saying to them, I believe in you. I know you have great potential. That's one way. The other way is to show them and to give them an opportunity to prove that to themselves. And the way that we do that is we offer a young person the chance to do something very challenging. And whether that's Fran or a lift or just showing up 5 times in a row, something like that. Usually it's a big workout in our program. And the transformation that happens just in that moment in their brain, where suddenly they can believe that they can do great things, very difficult things. It's transformational, and that's the magic of the program, and it's an extraordinary thing to see. And then moving ahead, they never look at a big challenge the same way. They start to think anything is possible for themselves and for their lives.
I'm not sure I'd want someone to think I care about them by making them do Fran for the record.
That's fair.
Maybe my worst enemies. I don't know. I would sit here thinking though, like I've got teens, at least one's still a teen, the other's 20 at this point, but teens are moody, and it's even if they haven't been through trauma, like how do you help your coaches and your leaders work through that of like determining, how much of this is trauma and how much of this is, hey, this is just a 16-year-old being a 16-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, I think that more maybe than the coach, although the coach is setting the tone, the peers that are in the room with the young person are going to hold each other to a high standard in terms of, we all showed up, we're here to work. We want to support you even if you're having a bad day, but like, let's not bring everybody down. Let's all support each other and get this work done and keep getting better. And I think we know that mentorship and adults, having an adult who's maybe not a parent has like a different level of influence on a young person, and just provides a different sort of adult perspective on things, which is good. And can be helpful in the teenage years when kids like maybe don't listen as much to their own parents. But
Right.
I think the peer aspect of the program is really important too. And so, there's a lot invested in making sure that there's sort of community standards in terms of how we're going to approach each workout each day.
I would imagine after 15 years, you guys are seeing a lot of lifelong relationships being built.
Yeah, and one thing we're working on right now is figuring out how to have our alumni come to summer camp. So we have a huge group of alumni that are interested in coming back, sharing their story, encouraging the youth that are in the program now, and who better, to play that role than our alumni. So we're super excited about where the organization is now and sort of the network that's exists now. Maybe there's alumni who are in certain colleges or things like that that can connect with the youth who are in high school now and tell them about their experience and yeah, there's just a lot of good that can come from that.
I love this idea and concept of, getting young people to do hard things. Like I had a daughter that ran track for years, and it's really hard. I mean, it was really, and so much hard work that goes into it. But not only are you
Running.
building, yeah, well, and
No thanks.
she was really good at it. And I'm the same
Okay.
way. I'm like, I don't want to run. I'm a CrossFitter. We don't run. I run from things, not to things.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, like, it's hard work, but what she learned from it was obviously the reward that comes from putting in that work. And then the relationships that came from it. And I think you kind of mentioned it before, like there's this team accountability that comes from working with others. Like she had her part. She was a long distance runner, right? So she had to carry that part of the team, and the sprinters had to carry their part of the team. But it's carried over into so many other parts of her life. I'm just imagining, kind of the same thing happening with you guys, with these young people as you're teaching them, God forbid, to do Fran, and they realize how hard that is. But then later in life, they're going to be able to apply that. Have you had, you mentioned, these alumni, are they giving you stories now of how the things you guys taught them, 10 years ago, how it's applied later in their life and given them success?
Yeah, well, so I'm getting to know, I joined the organization in January, and I'm getting to know some of the current athletes who are sort of transitioning to our alumni or have transitioned over the last couple of years. And we have one young woman who, her name is Sapja, and her older siblings were in the program, which this actually happens pretty often. And she saw them go off to camp and come back with just like this new ambition in their eyes and this new way of thinking about life. And so she was eager to start the program. So she's been coming to FYR programs for a couple of years now, for several years now. And when she went to camp, she had that same experience of having, a full week to think about what leadership meant to her personally and how she was going to move forward and be a leader in her community. And when she returned, she's doing things like reaching out to other youth in her neighborhood and getting them together, connecting them, building a community. She started a women's wrestling team at her high school, and now she's just applied for a number of colleges, and she chose her college last week. And I'm absolutely certain that she is going to be a leader on the campus in the fall. So we're seeing a lot of stories like that, and I'm really looking forward to collecting more of those stories in my work. So yeah,
I
I,
love
I
that.
think I think we also have to all acknowledge that there's other stories that are not as positive, and to the extent that um, some kids cannot escape where they're coming from and the circumstances that surround them. And we have also lost one of our most promising young men in the program in Denver, and he died from gun violence just I believe a year and a half ago. So um, we see both sides of it, and that doesn't mean that the program wasn't incredibly impactful in his life and that the future wasn't so bright for him. It absolutely was, and it's just devastating to think about that loss. But we have to keep doing our work, even in light of those just devastating outcomes sometimes.
Well, I think, yeah, and it's tragic. It's incredibly tragic to hear that. I've seen tragedies happen in to sports teams, or even in my daughter's life.
Mhm.
And building these relationships, though, makes those young people so much stronger to handle those tragedies, because the sad news is tragedy is going to happen in your life regardless of your circumstance. It's going to happen. You can count on it, to all of us.
Right.
And having a great support system is incredibly important. So it's wonderful to hear the support system you guys are building for this youth, so they can learn to deal with these situations in more productive ways than maybe they would have.
Right. Right.
Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about CrossFit's role and what you guys are doing, because one thing I've been really encouraged about within our community is that, CrossFit headquarters or home office or whatever the heck we're calling it this week, has been really investing time in charitable organizations, within the last couple of years, and yours is one of those. What's the, kind of the influence or role they're having within Forging Youth Resilience?
Yeah, there's an incredible nonprofit ecosystem in the CrossFit space, and I would love to talk about that in a moment. But just CrossFit is our partner as an organization, and they invest in our work by amplifying what we do, trying to help us get the word out about FYR, about the program. They helped tell the community about our recent local club summit, things like that. They also host scholarship L1s for us. When we have a group of, 17, 18-year-olds who are ready to take that next step in the CrossFit journey, they've been really helpful in setting those up and getting, seminar staff there to have that experience. Um, and uh, it's an evolving thing, but the CrossFit Foundation is there. We're working with Josh Murphy, and we understand there's some transition happening there. But when you think about CrossFit and sort of the opportunity that is possible in bringing new communities into the CrossFit space, the foundation can play a huge role in making that happen by investing in programs like FYR and other nonprofits in the space that are reaching out to communities that are maybe underrepresented in CrossFit right now.
And I love Josh Murphy, by the way. I don't get to see him enough. I run into him like every 2 years. Swear to God. Like, I met him at I want to say I flew out to CrossFit headquarters when it was in Santa Cruz for one of these derelict doctor conferences that Greg was putting on, and I ran into Josh there and met him for the first time, and just fell in love with him. Super guy, and clearly passion around charitable work, and then I didn't see him again for a couple of years. And I ran into him at the games last time I was at the games. And it was like we'd, been seeing each other the whole time. It's like old friends catching
Yeah.
up. And so I love what he does, and the work he stands for. And you mentioned something in all of that about the L1 scholarships. We
Yeah.
had Chuck Carswell on the show. It's been a while, but he came on to talk about the scholarships. You're the first one I've heard actually, kind of connect that this is going on live. Can you tell us a little bit about, what that program looks like and how it's helping?
Yeah. CrossFit wants to, as we bring new people into the CrossFit space, new communities, people who maybe their parents didn't do CrossFit, they're the first one in their family. This is all kind of new. Let's give them the best introduction possible. Let's give them the full, experience, that L1 experience that we all know and love. And so the foundation works with nonprofits like FYR, like the Phoenix. So the Phoenix is working on an L1 right now. I believe Green Beret Project has done these, and there's a lot of other amazing nonprofits that will probably be pulled into this, like Project Onyx and You Lift You, and certainly Out Foundation is a big one. So the L1 is really meant to just help individuals who can't afford to do the L1 to have access to that knowledge and that experience. So yeah, and it's not, there's no sort of specific cadence in terms of how often those happen or with which groups, but that is an amazing initiative that CrossFit is really embracing, I think. And as we get things sort of tightened up a little bit between what is happening in the inclusion space with the DEI Council and then what's happening in the CrossFit Foundation. The L1 scholarship is a huge tool in terms of how we introduce new communities to this community, to the CrossFit community.
Well, and I just, I think about, I think our community has a real tight grip on the youth being the future of the sport. You see it with, Emma Carey and Mal O'Brien, and, you've got a lot of these like kind of 16, 17, 18-year-old young men and women coming up through the sport that everyone knows these guys, young men and women will be on the podium someday. But what they often don't think about are the young men and women that are learning how to coach in the gyms that will eventually be gym owners, and
Right.
giving the scholarship to young men and women and saying, hey, here's an alternative for you to build a career for yourself. And it's something that they wouldn't have been able to afford to do otherwise. I think of that and think, man, you start bringing these, young people in at a young age, and you give them the scholarship and you teach them to coach, and they fall in love with it, and they apprentice under great coaches, and they're going to find themselves 5, 7, 10 years from now owning a gym,
Yeah.
and really creating this ecosystem of ownership and belief. I think that's really important to continue to drive the community forward and continue to deliver on great coaching and the love of community that we have. So I think the scholarship program is spectacular. I'm really excited to see the fruits of it. I think, it's probably going to be a decade before we really know, but
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just take this moment to just highlight another group that I've been working with, which is CF Indigenous. And oh, you've probably seen this around the internet, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
they are a group working here in Canada to provide CrossFit in Indigenous spaces on reservations. I guess is sort of the U.S. word for Indigenous community spaces, but um, 25% of Indigenous people are facing poverty, and that's 40%. That statistic is 40% when you look at Indigenous children in Canada. So and in addition to that, sort of the health outcomes amongst Indigenous communities here, First Nations communities, are just devastating, like huge reduction in lifespan and things like that. So um, this group, this council is trying to bring CrossFit to these communities, and we're working with box owners who already have boxes and work with Indigenous communities. But we're also we're trying to create a pipeline of coaches, the same thing that you're talking about, who are Indigenous and who would, just naturally begin to work with these communities. And so um, May 12th and 13th, they're offering level 1 in um, New Brunswick, and then a CrossFit scholarship May 14th and 15th. So um, believe Chuck Carswell is going to be leading that, which, I mean, what an incredible experience. But if you know an Indigenous person who can get out to the far, far east coast of Canada mid-May, we would love to include them. And that email to reach out is cfindigenous@gmail.com.
I might pretend I'm Indigenous just to go work with Chuck.
Exactly. I feel the same way.
Chuck is he's a spectacular guy. I mean,
Yeah.
about as smart as the day is long. He's forgotten more about CrossFit than I'll ever know, for
Yeah.
whatever that's worth. Which probably isn't that much, for whatever that's worth too. So you mentioned, I want to talk about a couple of things while we're still through this. I want to talk about, you guys have a current fundraiser right now
Yeah.
for Forging Youth Resilient, the Ignite program. So I want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
And you have a nasty workout that goes with this thing.
That's
So we got to
right.
talk about that too. So tell us about Ignite.
All right. So this is our second year of holding Ignite. It's a community workout fundraiser, and we are holding it in May this year to observe Mental Health Awareness Month. And because we do feel like our program addresses both physical health and mental health, and we really want to, we know how much young people, how their mental health was affected by the last couple of years. So we're focusing in on that with this workout. So something to focus on while you're grinding through the 18-minute long workout. Basically, we're asking boxes around the country to program the Ignite workout for one day in May as their class workout. And we'd love for gyms to create either their own page, and we can set that up really easily. It's a fundraising page on Give Lively. We can help you set that up, or you can just direct gym members to our homepage, forgingyouthresilience.org, and there you can find all the fundraising information there. But we'd like to have people reach out to their networks, have people sponsor them for the workout, or just, give to a good cause. And then, the fun of it is really this workout, which we programmed in partnership with our youth athletes. So we share the blame. 21, 15, 9 triplet of thrusters, over the bar burpees, and sit-ups. And you can prance over the bar if you like.
I
Instead of a
always
two-step
prance, always
prancing is
prance.
good. And then you've got an 18-minute total time cap. So you do that triplet, and then you rest for however long you have to, catch your breath, and then you try to find a max lift. I believe it's power clean and then hang squat clean. So
That's a rough workout, man.
it's
Thrusters and the burpees are bad enough. And then you're like, oh, we're going to do some sit-ups. So you can't catch your breath.
right.
Just do some hinging. What could go
Yeah.
wrong? I tell you what else I love that you guys have done with this workout is you programmed an adaptive version for the adaptive community. You've got a short stature version, a sensory version, a seated with hip function. I mean, I've been doing a lot of work within the adaptive community, and it's great to see that you guys have put this together for everyone, not just able-bodied athletes.
Yeah. Kevin Ogar at Watchtower CrossFit helped us with that, and we are grateful because we want everyone to be able to participate.
Yeah, in typical Kevin fashion, he did not make it easy.
No.
He didn't take any of the difficultness out of it for the adaptive community. If anything, I think Kevin likes to make things harder for them. I just think
Right.
it's his sadomasochist ways, and I love that dude too. Though, talk about just a fantastic human being and pretty darn fit, to say the least.
We'd love for people to video their max lift, and we will promote it out on our channels. We think that's part of the fun, and this is definitely also about building community. We've got a big fundraising goal to hit, so we can do our work, but we also just want to connect with everyone and all our supporters, and get to know you a little better through this workout.
You will not be getting a video of my max lift.
Okay, got it.
Right now, the community is in this mode right now where anything that hits video, they're going in and critiquing it and putting little
Oh,
patents
yeah.
under it and quality of movement. And I get it, but I'm not a games athlete, and no one needs to see me lift. No one, not even me, not even me.
We are grateful for Making WODs Great Again friend Ben D. We'll just say that.
Hey,
I don't want to try to pronounce it.
yeah,
He did the
Jawalski.
video. There we go. Thank you.
Did he? Yeah. Well, Ben's actually fit though. That's the difference. Like Ben's an actual athlete. He can actually, and he's super strong. He doesn't he's a little dude. I say he's a little dude. He's like my size, but for his size, he shouldn't be able to lift the amount of weight he lifts. And how much did he lift? Do you remember?
I don't know. He basically just he did a promo video for the workout. So I don't know. I don't even think he went for his heaviest, but maybe he will this month. We'll see.
Who knows with Ben? Ben's one of those guys. He drives me crazy. Just absolutely drives me crazy because he works out like 2 days a week. He has the greatest life. He's like traveling and feels like he's constantly on vacation. He works hard, but he gets to do a lot of fun stuff. And so he literally only does CrossFit workouts a couple of days a week, and then he'll go pick up a barbell and clean 300 pounds. He's just does it every day. It's I can't wrap my mind around it, but I'm also 51, so a little different
Us
It's a little
masters athletes.
yeah, a little different as a master's athlete. I'm just
Right,
happy to get out of bed and not being in pain. So,
right, right.
hey, I wanted to talk a little. You're on the CrossFit DEI Council, and
Yeah.
that's very, very cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and maybe what you guys are working on, and probably more importantly, well, like what's the this is a new thing for CrossFit within the last couple of years. Like, what's the purpose?
Yeah. So we are a group of individuals in the CrossFit space, affiliate owners, athletes, coaches, medical professionals, and first responders, nonprofit staff. Um, there's about 10 of us. I guess it's grown to about 12 with some additional representation from uh, experts who work with the adaptive athlete community. So that was added. Basically, trying to get the best cross section we could of people who can speak to uh, the underrepresented in the CrossFit community. So, our whole mandate is really to amplify those voices and to figure out ways to make the CrossFit space more inclusive for new communities to join. And, you know, it's one thing to get someone to walk in the door, it's another thing to get them to feel like they belong there and are instantly part of the community. And a CrossFit box is, I love dropping in wherever I go at different CrossFit boxes. It is sort of just inherently a welcoming space, a place where people can instantly walk in and feel part of the community. But if you're, an adaptive athlete, you want to know that your coach is knowledgeable about how to help you scale the WOD. If you're a larger bodied athlete, it'd be great to have a coach who is there to, again, help you figure out the best way for you to do that particular workout. If you walk in the door and no one else looks like you, how can a coach and a community facilitate a welcome that makes you feel like this is a place where you belong? So, as we work towards I want to see CrossFit grow. I mean, CrossFit has played such an incredible role in my own life and has provided me with a community that I am forever thankful for. I have to move around a lot because of, or every few years because of my husband's work. And so in each place, a CrossFit box has been the way that I have made my community and found friends. And you know, I just want others to feel like they can walk in the door and instantly feel comfortable in the same way that I would. So the DEI Council is really consulting with HQ, working with them as we think about specific challenges in terms of bringing new communities in and just new strategies for growing the community, whether that be by adding a training or amplifying pride activities across the network, um, creating the game's adaptive athlete survey, incorporating extended sizes into vendor contracts, um, reviewing the affiliate playbook to make sure that there's inclusive best practices in there. We've worked on closed captioning for deaf and hard of hearing for all of CrossFit's, live video presentations. And again, the L1 scholarship comes up. And maybe one of the biggest challenges of our generation, we've been looking at how to incorporate transgender and non-binary athletes into the competitive space or even just the open and make that space inclusive for them.
Yeah, it's interesting work to me, and it's an interesting dynamic within the community because I think often when the term DEI comes up, there's this connotation that we're all of a sudden going to be talking about race and sexuality, like those are the only things that get incorporated into DEI. And I've had this experience for years. I've told people like my uh, kind of passion around why this council is so important is like I've dropped in 100 gyms probably over the 10 years I've done this, and I bet half of them weren't uh, accessible for adaptive athletes. And I don't say that to make anyone feel bad around the way their gym is run. It's just that's the ecosystem. That's the way it's been,
Yeah.
and no one's addressed it. And even when we had Eric on the podcast, a year or so ago, he mentioned that our own website doesn't translate to all the languages in the countries that we happen to be in.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, we give away CrossFit for free to all these communities, through .com, but they can't translate it. And,
Right.
for me, that's where this council can really come in to help identify blind spots. I think that's the real beauty of it, is you guys can help identify things that maybe people haven't thought of, not maliciously, just never come up,
Yeah.
and you guys can highlight those things and start addressing them, and bring in experts, I think, which is most important. So you don't let idiots like me make the decisions. Uh,
Yeah, and there is a DEI executive now at CrossFit, and she's fantastic. And wow, what a job to come in and try to figure this all out and figure out where to be most effective, and what the community needs. But she's definitely she's leading this work, and we're already seeing some really positive outcomes.
it's valuable work. I'm not jealous. I'll say that because I think the hard part of working within groups that are looking to be better represented is they have very, and as they should, have very loud voices around what they want and what they expect and what they need, and often feel like it isn't happening fast enough.
Right.
I've learned that through the adaptive community. There's so many different levels of adaptation, and they can get very passionate around what their needs are, as you would want them to, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I just think about how hard that work is, for the council and for CrossFit to like prioritize what's next for the business and which one do you have to get to first, because you just don't simply have the resources to get to everybody at once.
Right. I think the best way that we can guide our work is to just think about that goal of healthier lives, and know that by reaching out to some of the communities that have been most marginalized, we are reaching out to some of the communities that are dealing with some of the worst health outcomes in our in the U.S. certainly, and in many other countries. So there's that intersection between marginalized communities have you know exponentially more negative health outcomes, whether that's diabetes, obesity, chronic disease, whether that's trauma and sort of mental health and addiction. And we know that CrossFit is an intervention. The CrossFit lifestyle can really be an answer in so many ways to so many of those problems. So that's the opportunity, and we want to let that guide our work. And we do have to take a moment and celebrate our incremental wins, because it is slow work, and it's we've been at it for a year and a half, and we can see change, but um, not everyone sees the huge changes that they would like to see, and we're just going to keep working as hard and as fast as we can to bring more communities in, and make it a great experience for them.
Well, and I would throw a challenge out to people listening, or just to the community at large, that if you think it isn't moving fast enough, instead of shouting, get involved. So I guess that's the question, is how do others get involved? Whether it's, how would, as an example, CrossFit gyms get involved, or, if an individual said, hey, I want to be a part of this and make an impact for whatever specific community that they want to make an impact, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I'll start with FYR. There's 5,000 CrossFit boxes in the U.S., and we know that 20% of youth are living with obesity, and we know there's 11 million children living in poverty in the U.S. So if you are a box that feels like you are ready to start a youth program, we would love to work with you to make that program safe and effective and successful, and to provide you with resources. So please reach out to us. My email is mason@forgingyouth.org. So that's one way if you're interested in working with youth from challenging circumstances. But if you're interested in the DEI Council and sort of more inclusivity across CrossFit, you can reach out to us at inclusion@crossfit.com. and we regularly are checking that inbox. People have sent us some great ideas, and people are also reaching out to say that they're interested in being a part of the council, and we're certainly open to that. I don't know sort of at what point additional people will be added, but we're always trying to figure out where the gaps are in our sort of sight lines, and who's not represented on a council about inclusion. So please reach out there as well.
Well, we all know that bald white guys like me are totally represented, so you're good in that regard. No, look, I'm excited about the work you guys are doing. I think the community at large, if everybody took a step back and said, "Hey, where were we 5 years ago, and where are we now?" I think we've certainly made a lot of strides as a community and are continuing to. So, thank you for the work you guys are doing. I think that's great, and specifically, thank you for what Forging Youth Resilience is doing, because changing the lives of kids. Man, it changes all of our lives. I mean, it really
That's right.
does. As this next generation comes up and continues to do great work within our CrossFit community, I think we're going to look back on this and go, man, that was time well spent for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, Mason, before we wrap up here, I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you guys. So if they needed to find you online, if they needed to find you through social media, like where would they seek you guys out?
Yeah, we are forgingyouthresilience.org. So please head there. I'd love for folks to sign up for our newsletter, because we send that out about once a month, and it just will keep you informed on, new clubs that are opening, who are, new sponsors and partnerships, things like that. And then we're on Instagram, of course. In fact, we're very active on Instagram. So Forging Youth, again, there. And yeah, we'd love to interact with you. So please reach out.
Yeah, well, you guys make sure you go check them out, sign up for their newsletter. You're going to see Mason's group on this podcast more often. We're going to do a series of podcasts around financial wellness and helping her group and hopefully help some of you guys too. So you'll see more to come in the very near future. So Mason, thank you for joining. It's been super fun.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
All right. For everyone listening, we appreciate you guys joining today, and we'll chat with you guys soon.